everyone to The River's Edge. Today, I am so excited to talk about my favorite topic ever, the human potential. And we're talking about the movie, The Grand Self, which James Sinclair created. I interviewed him a few weeks ago, and we have a panel of experts today. I'll review their bios right now. Maureen Edwardson has been developing and evolving inner residence technologies over the last 29 years. She has shared this technique in U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, tribal schools, and in Canadian First Nations communities. Maureen has also presented to various shamans, medical doctors, medical schools, psychologists, and many more. And next, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, inventor, researcher, professor of applied integrative biophysics. Her bio goes on for days. She's so much experience. Born to genius scientist who met in engineering physics, Dr. Michael has taught holistic health for over 4 decades, including inventing the first effective Scalar Healing Light Chamber in 1978 in her Salon of Health. Dr. Michael's lifelong award-winning work in applied integrative biophysics has earned prestigious recognition, such as presidential and international who's who, lecturing at the United Nations, MIT, the World Health Summit, the Harvard Club, London's Royal Society of Medicine, Mount Sinai Medical School, the Scalar Research Experts Conference, Tesla Tech, Regenerative Technology and Anti-Aging Congresses, as well as numerous medical schools and ministries of health worldwide. Knighted for her humanitarian service, Dame Dr. Michael has served on the board of the Global Foundation for Integrative Medicines and as a commissioner for the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. Wow, that is a lot. And Chris Walton is an internationally recognized performance psychologist, consciousness researcher, and the author of 2 best-selling books, The Gamma Mindset and Peak Performance in 60 Seconds. Over the last 25 years, Chris has created a cutting-edge system to optimize the mind and body to maximize energy, health, and performance. And last but not least, James Sinclair, the reason why we're even here having this conversation, because he created the wonderful movie, The Grand Self, and was so vulnerable and open and sharing your own story. It was amazing. I love the movie, and everyone should go watch it. And I wanted you to, so thank you for coming, James.
Thank you for having us.
And everyone else, thank you so much for joining.
Wow, happy to be here on this auspicious day.
Yes.
I know, I'm so excited. And you've already had quite a busy day, Sandra.
Yes, I mean, yes, I do want to mention that this is this grand timing for our grand selves to come together today. A very auspicious window with this solstice Christmas star, the first time we've had the Christmas star like this in over 800 years, but it's very significant because it's the coming together of Saturn and Jupiter conjunct, which occurred with Christ's birth. And so I believe this is about the second coming of Christ and us stepping up our game here and entering through this portal to create the world we want.
Very, very exciting. So a lot of people, I want to talk about the concepts you guys cover in the movie. And a lot of people don't even realize they have a higher self, or they're not aware of their subconscious programming that they live with day to day. So if we could start in the beginning. By the way, this is my dog, Sammy Duke Rivers. He likes to be part of the interview. But if we could start with the basics, like what does it mean to be a human being and to have this subconscious, these limiting beliefs, and why do people struggle in life? So does any one of you want to go first on that?
Sure, I can start on that if you like. You know, I feel, first of all, there's a beautiful proverb that says, if you take mind out of a human, you have a God. And so I think that really frames everything really well. We literally are limitless potential, but we've taken on programs that have become subconscious that limit that expression. And so our limiting programs act like a great regulator. And, you know, the people on this panel, you know, I attracted into this movie because they are master experts in their own ways of helping to release that resistance. And when that happens, more of who we already are is able to shine through very powerfully. So
I love that. And
I would love to share also that it's so simple. It's already coded in the word human. You know, who are we, you know, as human? Hu is another name for God. Isn't that interesting? And it took me many, many years to really know that. Human, we are God-man. So we are both integrated. And I believe that we are here to really have command as the God beings that we are in this realm and shapeshift reality. So this is our opportunity that's embedded already just in the name human.
Yeah, I love that explanation. Yeah, and we're going from mankind to humankind, more and more entering that reality. Are we willing to really be who we really are? Because we have access to unlimited power, infinite intelligence, unconditional love. Everybody's heard about it. Now it's time to go beyond an intellectual, theoretical, thought process into knowingness, into cellular knowingness, beingness. How do you live it? How do you really live it? And it's about finding the limitations and moving beyond them, because we are limitless, of course. We have access to everything. Or I talk about now it's time to quit sitting on our access and access that real power, and allow that power to rise up within us, up the spinal column, that fully raised Kundalini, hood of enlightenment. That's the old Melchizedek initiation process, but be the fully raised, enlightened, Christed beings, walk the planet in full awareness of who we are, full access that's to all that's ours. Let's do it.
I'm
through
ready.
The heart. Yeah, through the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what we all want to get to, but how do we get there? So for someone who's never done any of this work before, what would you say why do all these human beings suffer and have all of these beliefs that they can't, they're not good enough, and compare themselves to everyone else in the world?
I'll maybe have an attempt at answering that one then to start us off. I think that it's just a matter of, firstly, re-education. It's people need to understand a little bit more about how their mind works, and the understanding about consciousness itself. We take the assumption that consciousness is created by the brain, and that it's all to do with the brain. And if you just re-educated people that way a little bit, and explain that mind is not something the brain does, that mind, emanates from every cell of the body as in an information field, and you educate people with that sort of knowledge, and then you sort of give the education of just how in the younger years we're all programmed by the inputs through our senses, through our upbringing. People can understand that. Every one of us has lived that, so we all understand that. And then, of course, the ways to change the negative programming that we have, it's important to recognize the good programming that we had, else none of us would be here now, But of course, we've all, most of us, it would be fair to say, have had limiting, outdated programming from our parents and then their parents and so on. That's the life process to a certain extent. And now, with the knowledge that we have today, those old programs can be changed quickly. No longer can we see them as just old, mechanical, long-winded, issues that we have to talk through, and it's going to take ages to get rid of them. Today, with today's technology and understanding of, mind-body connection, heart-brain coherence, all the things that we mentioned in the film, and all the things that we're into, those patterns can be changed quickly, just as quickly as tapping a few keys on a computer and pressing the delete. You're restructuring some energy and information, and inevitably that's what we're doing. And we can do that with our own consciousness in certain brainwave states, with many methods that are out there that can work, that would maybe fall in the term of energy psychology and energy medicine and those type of terms, So there's a whole new realm out there that's easy for people to understand, but it's just really important knowledge for them to sort of allow themselves to go, I can change, and I can change quickly. And I think the more people that know that's step one, get everybody to understand they can change quickly. Because sometimes if we go from day-to-day life of paying bills and doing all the things that most people do to thinking about the grand self, it can seem like, trying to jump over the Grand Canyon. But we have to start at the process of understanding our inner power, that we can change. We can change any of the programming that we've had. I've spent my last 20 plus years researching and writing and doing that and doing my studies in that, you know, along with many, many, many others. So yeah, it's exciting times for everybody, and getting this knowledge out there to people is part of that, you know, excitement.
Right. Do you think that, I thank you for that answer. That was beautiful. Do you think that it's a lot easier now to change than it was like 20 years ago? We were stuck and it wasn't so easy to change or limited, or we just didn't know how to back then?
Yeah, I think it was more people didn't know how to. But the more that people, when you know you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. If you know you can, you can. But realizing that consciousness, the body is a condensation of consciousness, and there's the cell memory. I mean, so we've carried all these memories, but rather than staying stuck in anything from the past and the reruns of the old D movies, is what I call them, D for dumb, but reruns of the old D movies, and some of them were horror flicks too. But rather than staying stuck in any of that, how do we bring that all forward? And in the letting go, we can have full assimilation of all the wisdom, all the learnings. Let's bring that, call forth all the knowledge, the wealth of all ancestry, you know, the ancestral memory, all our own memories. And now let's come from that new place of wisdom and knowledge. And it's really, I loved how in the movie, you know, he shared about the rebirthing, Leonard Orr's work. And I had a lot of work with that. And that's the big secret of the kahunas. It's all in the breath. It's aloha. You know, so you can breathe in all the power, all the light of the entire universe right into your heart. And the exhale is a total relaxation and a total letting go. And, you know, when you want to keep the love and let go of anything and everything that no longer serves our highest purposes in being here now. And we've got a divine timing, that a window with this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, this star of Christmas star, solstice star, it's been called a lot of things. It's a window that encourages us to let go. And it's an divine opportunity to let go of anything and everything and call forth that wisdom. It's, you know, because we wouldn't be able to be here now without all the homework that we've done to be the ones we've been waiting for. We've waited a long time for this time on the planet. And that's been the homework to be able to do what's ours to do now. If you want to know your highest purpose, look at everything you've done. It's, you know, we're here in this body, on this planet, at this time, on purpose, just to fulfill all of our highest purposes. And so being grateful for all of it, absolutely all of it is a real key. Grateful for all of it, because you wouldn't be able to do everything you're here to do now and live your fullest and highest and greatest life and greatest love without all that experience. It's all that experience that gives us expertise, or, you know, you've had to have done things to the max, you know, victim's been done to the max, but you have to do things to the max to learn how to be a true master. And now it's time to accept the master's degree from your own you.
How do you, so someone who's never done work on themselves, what would you give advice to them on how to look at understand where their blocks are and what their limiting beliefs are, and just someone who's never done the work? Because I know I personally know a lot of people who have never done any work on themselves and they don't know where to begin. So what would be your...
That's why this movie is so powerful and profound for this time. And James is the perfect one to answer that. I think that's what he was trying to communicate to the world, and beautifully
so great.
done. Okay, so James should answer that.
You know, I think if someone's never even considered looking at themselves, I think the first step is actually looking at the results one is getting in their life, and how they're feeling, how their health is, how their relationships are, and what is not in harmony, and what are the challenges in life. And then I think the next step is becoming consciously aware of what we've been unconsciously thinking about. That's really important, because, you know, and Chris will tell you too, that, you know, people go around on average 95% of the time in an unconscious program. That means the subconscious is running our lives 95% of the time, and we're completely, unconscious of that. And so when we take those moments to go inward, and it's like, okay, what's really going on inside of me? What am I really thinking? And this is one reason why so many people are distracted, with cell phones and Netflix and everything, is they don't want to feel, they don't want to be, most people don't want to be alone, and they don't want to feel what? They don't want to feel what's going on inside of them, because no one, well, not no one, but, many times, often in their life, they haven't been given the understanding that it's like you can change what you don't like, and you can change it really quickly. And so most people spend decades, resisting what's going on. And they'll drink and they'll party and go to clubs and anything, join all these social clubs, but to actually sit and be present within oneself.
Right. There's a lot of people scared to go within and look at their dark side, if you will.
Yeah. And then I think, educating yourself, like, with the people, for example, on this panel, with their work, years of highly accredited research and breakthroughs, and you can realize that, wow, if you don't like what you're sitting with, you can change it, and you can change it very quickly. And actually, Chris has a beautiful story about, just a short blurb on it even, about his friend who's a Tibetan Buddhist monk that like 15 years ago talked about, these times of how that we're in where change can be so quick, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a guy that he spent 18 years in a Japanese monastery. He was an English guy, a British guy, and I guess I met him 15 years ago now, but he came in one of my workshops. But he had said that, this was going back now. So 15 years, he had said that where it used to take people about 5 years to get into what they would consider, a Zen state or a meditative state, however it's looked upon in that tradition. It now takes a weekend. He can get people there in a weekend because just everything's changing quicker. So he recognized that within his teachings, after spending all the time in the monastery, that where you can actually get in 5 years, you can now get there in a weekend. And once you've accessed that place, it's not there obviously like you're there all the time then, but once you've accessed it, it's like, you've just switched on another frequency that you didn't have before, and now it's alive and ready to be built upon with the next level of network. So the education is an important thing, and then of course just getting people started, getting people doing. It's great to talk about these things and have the logic, but it's the activity and the feeling in the body and getting everything moving and getting people doing techniques and understanding that. If the techniques work, the techniques work. If they get you there, they get you there. So it's people can start doing these things quickly. And the notion of if people haven't done any work, it's a little bit too general really to answer that, because of course we're all at different stages of awareness, different levels of meaning making, different stages of consciousness in life, and so where you are depends what you need next and what's important to you. If you are an earlier stage of consciousness, then what's important is survival, the base needs, and you won't think too much about the grand self until all of that's covered. So it's important to recognize that it's not easy just for people that don't have the base needs covered and security and finance and things just to suddenly switch. But that being said, even in those states of being that people can be in for quite a while, these techniques can make dramatic and profound and rapid changes to that mindset to get them out of that mode into the next level. So the understanding that we can change quickly, we know how it works, we know why it works, and getting the techniques to people is really the key, because information is information, and we need action and putting that energy and information into the world and making things a smoother ride.
Yeah, I like what you said. So someone who has all these limiting beliefs and they've never done any work, and then it's a tough jump to go all the way to the authentic self. Like, okay, now I can do everything I want. So if they're in this limiting, like they've never made more than $50,000 a year, they live paycheck to paycheck, they don't like their job. I mean, the first step would be realizing that it doesn't have to be that way. The basics, right? Their beliefs on money and self, you'd start there.
Personally, I think the most important place to actually start is the recognition, the understanding. It depends, you know, again, depends who you are and where you are and a lot of variables, but to understand that you can change, you know, that the most limiting mindset that we can have is that change is going to take a long time. It's going to be hard. You know, it's going to take things away from us, you know, rather than seeing change as opportunity, that's going to give us something, you know, that's going to allow us to do more, be more, have more, whatever that means to you. You know, that the understanding that that's a mindset within itself. And then the understanding that you can actually change by applying techniques, tools to your life. You can make the changes that you want quickly. So once you know that and understand that, that's, I think, a very important place to start, because if you deep down subconsciously don't think you can change and you're blocked to change it, and most, well, most is maybe a stretch, but a lot of people that I've tested over the last 20 years, if you test them on a subconscious belief, it is safe for me to change, I believe this 100%. I would confidently say 85% of people that I've tested over the last 20 years are blocked on that. It is safe for me to change, I believe this 100%. And that's a very primitive, you know, caveman pattern. The old, you know, any change on the horizon threatens survival. That old brain structure is still live. And now we've got modern life and our personal history and experiences wrapped up into that. So those primitive things, you know, are really the deep unconscious things that really do hold people back. And when you update that little bit of circuitry, so that I say change is now, you know, good for you, brings opportunity, is, you know, expansion is what you are and what you can do, then that's a very good solid foundation to then build any other practices and belief changes and stuff from. That's the way I see it.
I also feel that, as with the movie and James's story, it's when life becomes, you know, so painful that something different is needed. And so it's just like the old saying, you know, when the rosebud, you know, it gets too painful to be contracted, you know, we just have to bloom. You know, there is no choice. Well, there is a choice. You know, it becomes like life or death. That's how it was for me, life or death. And so whether that's psychologically or physically or whatever the doorway is for people, it's their own limitations that become too uncomfortable. And so then the very act of saying there's got to be something more, then of course by nature of breathing in the limitless universe, that question will be answered. And their journey, you know, is guided internally by their own higher self automatically, without having to figure out that they even have a higher self. So then, you know, they will have a curiosity, or, you know, they'll just encounter someone that invites them to something or whatever it might be, or they might see something online and they'll go, oh, that looks so stupid. That, you know, then they catch the first 10 seconds and go, oh. So I think life itself is the driver of what's not working. And, you know, we just know that there must be something more. And if there's not something more, then what's the point?
Yeah, I think we're all in deep shift as a planet, and everybody knows we're in really deep shift as a planet right now. But then it becomes literally shift to get off the planet. That is that wake up call. But we want to support people and go into you know, the shift has hit the fan of accelerated evolution. This is the Great Awakening. I mean, I've had, you know, we spoke about this, my higher guidance has been telling me for 30 some years, the Great Awakening cannot and will not be stopped, no matter what. You know, it's a big snowball and it cannot and will not be stopped. And it's picking up speed. And that it is very important for people to realize, if we could create everything we've ever created, if we could feel everything we've ever felt, if we could do all the play in all the ways we've ever played on this planet, there could be a lot more fun ways to play. If we create everything we've created, now what do you want to create? You know, putting people, reminding them back at choice, that if we could do all that, if we could feel all that, now how do you want to feel? And start making more intelligent, that's what empowerment is, making more intelligent, more informed choices for ourselves. And going back into the remembrance of we're unlimited beings. Now, what does that mean? If we're unlimited, there isn't anything we can't let go of, right? If we're unlimited, there isn't anything bigger than God. So what are you going to be afraid of? There's nothing bigger than God. So fear is just thinking, forgetfulness of who we really are. There's nothing more powerful than love. So take that deep breath and be present and see what happens. But it is that process of, feel things fully. You can't let go of something you haven't let yourself have. So you want to take a deep breath, go with it, feel it, and then let it go. Because if you could do that, now what do you want to do? And you go, and it's always good to take that deep breath and go, duh, fear. You find yourself in some negative thought, whatever it is. I've found that the root of all negativity is a tricky little thought. Not good enough. Not good enough yet. Could be, should be, would be better. Bunch of shitty attitudes where we've been shitting on ourselves. It could be, should be, would be, if only. Not good enough yet, not God. And that's the basic denial of God. And take a deep breath and go, duh. Duh. Now what? I forgot who I am. And when you breathe, it is that affirmation. Oh, yes. I remember who I am and what's this really about? And the clearer the questions, the clearer the answers. Ask and we shall receive. Take that deep breath and be still and know is really shut up and listen. Take that deep breath, ask a clear question, and then trust those answers that you get. Be still and know whatever there is to know, the knowing which can allow all things to totally heal and clear as issues in our bodies and our lives and our relationships and for the whole world now. So it's a process of, rather than getting distracted, like James talked about, distracted, that's the original definition of sin, was being off track, out of alignment. And so you take that deep breath and let yourself be aligned and realigned by the light, with the light, as the light. I actually created technology that creates that coherence in the body by activating the light at the very core of the DNA and creating that coherence and creating the right-left brain synchronization. So it allows a reboot or reset. So putting people at cause in a very rapid, accelerated way. So this is a time for accelerated evolution. And the tools and the gifts are all here for people to they're being made available to humanity.
I find that's very exciting, very, very exciting, Dr. Sandra, because my work, Inner Resonance Technologies, activates the inner software, the soft technologies that we have that then works together with the exciting technologies that are being developed, such as yours. And it just really creates a doubling of the effect, which is really exciting. And I feel the word fear that everyone has, it's really an interesting word because fear freezes us. And then we're not able to respond. And so I love the acronym for fear, frantic effort to avoid responsibility, because then we can't, we have no ability to respond. And so when we just allow and allow ourselves to be held in, in safety, or just being still in that place of our I am, as she was so eloquently expressed, then everything becomes possible. And it's one breath at a time, because when we get traumatized, we have an inward breath.
Yeah.
Automatic response, but people forget to breathe out.
Right. You don't breathe, that's a problem.
And then breathe what you want. Breathe in what you want, not what you don't want.
Exactly. Breathe out what you don't want. Yeah.
Is it important? Oh, sorry.
That's that letting go is with the breath. So I love that frantic effort to avoid responsibility, response ability. that we have all the ability to respond to anything and everything appropriately, as long as we take that deep breath and then come from our heart and respond from that place versus reacting out of fear and fright, flight, fight, and all that stuff. Reacting or fright, fight, or flight. That's also that freeze mechanism that you talk about. And that's how things got stuck in the body in the first place. So that's where the breathing is. It's really all in the breath. It's what I call aloha.
Yes.
Is it ever important to know why you have the limiting beliefs that you have, or you just know it's there and you can release it? You don't have to know why.
Yeah.
Personally, I say no, simply because of the experience that I've had with people in the inner resonance technologies that I've developed, because what that system allows people to do is activate the part of them that already knows at the superconscious level, at the higher self. And that's all in patterns of information in our field. So as Bruce Lipton, is fond of saying, we're all out of our minds, because our mind is in a field all around us. And that's what's giving the signals to the body, which is 100% responder to what's, there acting out what wants to be known, or what wants to be freed up, which is not who we are. So sometimes, yes, I think it's important for people to understand and know. However, we're getting into a new opportunity that without knowing, you can also dissolve or neutralize that information, so that anything that you do need to know has easier access.
Knowing whatever you need to know. I mean, I love the way you put some of that, but it's also, I think also it's the truth that sets us free. And so we remember who we are, all that we are, and we go back into, oh yes, I remember who I am. That's our power. And then the letting go is more like taking out the garbage. You don't have to stop and sort and analyze it on its way out. Oh, this is my stuff from my childhood, and I'm trying to let it go, and I'm trying to let it go. Well, it takes a lot of energy holding on to something, and pain is simply resistance. That's that resistance to letting go. It's taken a lot of energy working on stuff or trying to let things go. And my guides gave me an example, and they said basically, it's like have a pen or whatever. When you reach for what your highest purposes, your highest guidance, you wouldn't have your greatest visions, your highest purpose, if you weren't here to fulfill it all. So in the letting go, as you reach for that highest vision, open up your hand, reach for that highest vision, everything else is let go of in the process, and you have all the benefits of all your crap. You don't have to stop and sort and analyze it. I'm a Virgo, so I would analyze it. So you had to get out of that pattern. Because whatever you focus on expands. You can find stuff forever.
Yes, I found that out the hard way.
Yeah. Well, research shows that, talking about it over and over actually messes up the brain, and you get better at re-experiencing, those emotions that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 911 showed that, the opportunity to have people immediately debriefed from the trauma. Then the people that didn't get the opportunity, 2 years later, they compared both groups. And the group that got debriefed at the time of the trauma actually had much greater PTSD than the people that didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Wow.
So interesting. So James, you've tried sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just pondering on what Maureen said. That's very, very interesting. That's another discussion for another time, because I've looked at PTSD and CPTSD a lot. And that marries with some thoughts and experience that I've had, but that's a chat for another time.
Well, there's so many modalities for clear. So to get to your authentic true self, would you say it's just all about reprogramming your subconscious, getting rid of the old beliefs that don't work for you? And how do you know which modality? Because James, you did a lot in the movie. You tried a lot of different things. Maybe people don't have the time or money to do that. Like, where would they start? How do they know what will work?
Yeah, and there's literally, probably infinite number of ways. And I think anything that moves us from fear and worry to more peace and joy, or from dissonance to resonance, is very valid, And I think, you know, like on this panel and in our movie, I mean, we did a lot of research, I mean, for years. And so what we included is what we feel is some of the most powerful, you know, modalities, if you even call them that, because even that limits really what they are. And I know everyone here actually, this might sound a little funny, but actually I think a lot of the technologies that we're talking about, the consciousness technologies, have actually come through from, and this is just fun to say, I don't often say this, but from higher advanced civilizations, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ahead, that have brought this in now for this timing. And this is what this panel has in common. And so, but at the end of the day, I feel it's what resonates with you. There's so many different ways and things. And the main thing is, the common denominator is, since it's thought and feeling that has caused this false identity, you know, the small self, the ego, and which is the collection of negative limiting beliefs that we learned about ourselves that we live by. And we talked earlier about, you know, 95% of it is operating unconscious. You know, you go to approach a business venture or whatever it is, most people are unconscious, and whatever they believe about themselves and all their past experiences is going to be present at that meeting, because they're not present in that meeting, right? And so if beliefs are collections of thought, then a belief is really just a thought that we continue to think. And an unconscious belief is a thought that we've thought so many times, we're not even paying attention consciously anymore. But that doesn't mean, like some people think that, oh, it's deep rooted, or we've been thinking this for 15, 20, 30 years, however long, it's going to take a long time to, you know, work through that. That's erroneous. And actually in Chris's book, he does a great job of breaking through a lot of that, a lot of those old paradigms, you know, and the old kind of Freudian way. And research shows that it doesn't have to take long at all. It doesn't matter how long you've had an old pattern that's been running your self-image, that's been running your life. You can change that so quickly. And when you do, everything on the outside changes and conforms to your new, consistent, predominant, you know, thought and feeling or belief about yourself.
I would suggest that it's deprogramming rather than reprogramming, because I have a belief that who we are is already there. We're breathing ourselves in, part of the infinite, part of the oneness. So when we have the opportunity and take the ability to respond, and whatever way we do, whether it's just the simplicity of going into nature and feeling that place of connection, because it's connection that people are missing. They're disconnected, they're separate, you know, they have been programmed with who they're not and imprinted. So it's just a simple idea of deprogramming who we are, and then who we are automatically emerges. That's what my experience has been working with people.
Yeah, and we share that in the movie. You know, we talk about when you let this go, you know, this false self. It's like there's nothing you have to do. Just you automatically allow that greater part of you to shine through. And I think that the repatterning is, you know, since thoughts and feelings are the regulator, it's, you know, we've been really out of practice. We have used our thoughts and feelings to think so low about ourselves in life. And so I think that the retraining is harmonizing ourselves with the divine, you know, I mean, and to think thoughts and feelings about ourselves, how the divine does. I mean, the divine, you know, our source, our higher self loves us unconditionally at every moment. And throughout our entire lives, it's been there at the door, you know, knocking, wanting us to allow it. And how do we allow it? Is we have to raise our vibration through our thoughts and feelings and let it in, you know? And when we do, it's just tremendous.
And getting to what Chris said earlier too, about the belief that, like, because there's a belief that you want to be successful, you have to work 24/7, you know, nose to the grindstone, be very diligent and disciplined. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be very effective and be easy, right? As well. It's a belief, would you say, Chris, that people have that, like, it's just going to be so hard to be successful. I have to work 24/7, and that's just a belief system that people will need to let go of.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of that, particularly, yeah, you know, in the Western world and emerging countries, and you know, it's the underlying as Bruce Lipton says, was mentioned earlier, you know, the myth perception, you know, survival of the fittest, you know, that we all need to compete. So that's one of those underlying core beliefs that we would hardly think about. That's sort of, I don't like to use the term deeply wired, but let's just say there's been an imprint there for a long time, you know, and if you can clear that sort of stuff and realize that's not true, you know, depending on your meaning of success, you know, again, you know, depending on the meaning of that, inevitably when you, you know, open up to that sort of bigger sense of self-identity than just the personality with the physical sense, you know, a physical body. When you open up to greater than that, then, you know, inevitably you are opening up to more potential, literally, and then what unfolds from there, step by step, you be conscious of, make good decisions about, and understand your triggers, and you know, move forward with an expanded view. But I think, as James said, in whatever belief system you live with, you know, calling in that higher vibration, or the love, or God, or whatever your you know, works for you, it is probably the most important thing. Just calling it in, even if you don't really believe it, just do it anyway and see what happens. You know, call in that higher self, that higher part of you, that higher wisdom, whatever you want, words you want to wrap around it to make you enjoy the process. But I think people should, you know, just trying that and doing that and playing with that can often be you know, bring profound positive changes within itself, you know, and opening up a whole load of new journeys.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be difficult.
No, I call it the lily pad effect. You know, I jump from lily pad to lily pad and go, oh, there's a view over there that leads to more pathways. That was my technique.
Very nice.
Yeah, and Kelly, I think, you know, this is how powerful we are. There's many teachers out there teaching, and there's many examples out there teaching that you got to work so hard. You got to do this, you got to do that to get the results. And they're right in that set of beliefs. And then there's also other teachers that are saying it's effortless and it's easy.
That's what I mean.
Joyful,
yeah.
And it's like, and they're right. You know, I mean, there's even a great book that came out, you know, by this guy that just let go of everything. He was like trying so hard, working, he was successful, you know, quote unquote, but he just let go of everything and he followed his heart. That's all he did. He followed his heart. He moved to Costa Rica by himself. He lived in a hut. He then started gardening, just one step at a time. Then he attracted a beautiful wife. Then he attracted inspiration in for business, and he created a multi-billion-dollar company. Not because he was trying to create a multi-billion-dollar company, but because he was in his joy, and it just evolved into that. Now he teaches. It's just like, man, I thought I had to work so hard, but I've made more money than I can ever dream of by just letting go and living my life and being in that, you know, joy.
Yeah.
I love it. So true. So true. If
Yeah.
people just be willing to let go, right, of everything's got to be difficult and hard, and it's just, change is just awful. And it's not. It can be so much easier.
Like I said, we have access to unlimited power, infinite intelligence, unconditional love. Really, so it can all be easy now, right? It can all be easy now. But it's, I wanted to, I really wanted to acknowledge James in the way he shared, because I think it's really important to realize that you come up and you know, the big thing is realizing that you can change, that you have a choice of what you're thinking, what you're creating, and you make different choices to, you know, to put out to the world, because whatever you put out expands. But you reach a level where you're living in this place of total ecstasy or this light and joy and happiness. And then, oh my God, what happened? Because love brings up everything unlike itself to heal. And everything and anything in the way of the next level will come up, guaranteed, because that's what unconditional love is. Unconditional love means letting go of every freaking excuse you've ever had for not being in love. And so get excited about it, because love will bring up anything and everything in the way of the next level, or anything and everything, you know, as you as you commit to unconditional love, or as you make those changes of creating more love, love brings up everything unlike itself. But I did want to share something that's what I found to be an easy process for people. And people you may want to write this down, because it's been so useful for so many people. As far as Pono for Hawaiian is effectiveness is the measure of truth. How effective, how efficient, how well does it work? By the fruit, But the statement is, that's not the truth of my being. So if you find yourself creating something a little less than ideal, optimal, and ecstatic and wonderful, go, wait a minute, take a deep breath. That's not the truth of my being. And then your higher self and every part of you goes, well, what is the truth of my being? And then you can go right into, well, the truth of my being is this. Go back to creating what you want, not what you don't want. Because whatever you focus on expands. So you want to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So that's not the truth of my being. Is a very, very powerful, powerful statement. And
that is.
You like that?
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it just brings the awareness right back to the here and now. This is not true.
Because every part of you then goes, well, because you can always see, oh, that's not the truth of my being. That's not what I wanted to create. That's not the real truth of my being. But then every part of you, and the universe will rearrange itself. Every part of you goes about, well, what is the real truth of my being? And it's the truth then sets us free.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love the, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say.
I was just going to say, Sandra, I love that you brought that up and that you say that, and I think that also what you said earlier is so important because it's so comforting. A lot of people are going through a lot of stuff, and so a lot of fears, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, stuff. And so just how you said that, I think really hits home, because it's like, if that's not who you are, something is coming up in you to come out, to being fleshed out. And I often give this analogy, and I think this is where we are in the world, and I think this is what's happening individually, is if you take a glass that's with murky water and start pouring fresh water into it, what happens? It stirs it up, and it looks momentarily like this is worse than ever. The world's never been this bad. It's awful. And it's like, you know what? Keep pouring the fresh water. What happens? It flushes it out, and it's left crystal clear and pure. So I think this is the same with us, with our internal processes, as we're growing and we're experiencing more love and we're going higher, we're ascending, we're bumping up against what's always been there, our own resistance. But the beauty of that is, like Sandra says, it's for the purpose of change. It's like we're being so loved. It's like, let's be free of that. That is not the truth of who we are.
So true. And how do people handle that? So now that they know they can create their own reality and they face their limiting beliefs and let that go, and then how do they handle the external triggers? Like, especially right now, all the fear that's out in the world, and the election, and people start focusing on all these external things, right? And they drive them crazy. And because they feel like I can't control it, and I don't know, I'm at the mercy. I don't want to get vaccinated. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to, whatever it is. And how do they handle that? What are some recommendations you guys have? Anyone?
I think what Kelly brings up is everyone's greatest challenge. I think what Kelly brings up is everyone's greatest challenge. And the greatest challenge is we've been so conditioned to give our power away to the outer, to what we call reality. And so, when something goes wrong in our lives, we think it's really real, and we give all of our thought and feelings and attention and focus on that. And it goes over and over, and we cycle through it until we stop. So I think it's a very powerful question, Kelly. Mm-hmm. And I think it's to retrain ourselves to stop giving power to the circumstances that we created in the first place, And so when you turn that attention inward, and you realize you're becoming consciously aware of it, of what I've been unconsciously thinking about, you're going to realize what you've been thinking that's creating this reality. And collectively, You know, I mean, there's many people right now that are so scared financially. So it's easy to say, but this is going on in the world. This is how it is. But there's many people that are thriving financially right now, doing better than ever, moving to communities, growing food, living in luxury and abundance. This is also a reality on our planet right now. You're not going to see it on CNN or the mainstream media, but you know, this is the reality. So we have to, again, turn our attention inward and stop giving that power, feeding the fear. And also, it's the mainstream media. For most of us, that's a big conditioning. Leonard Orr talked about 5 biggies, later became 8, the 8 biggies of conditioning. And one of them was media. And that's something that most of us have been conditioned with and fall asleep with even, is the media. And, you know, now we're finding out that the narrative they've been giving us is not even accurate. It's fearful things, you know, designed to keep people fearful. And there's so much more going on in the world that should be being reported. It's popping up more and more now. So again, like, take your mind off of the reality, because what you're being told about the reality is not accurate in the first place.
Not even real.
It's not even real.
Fear, false evidence appearing real. It's not
Yes.
even real. It's all false. It's all lies because it's propaganda. And if you really look at it, what's MK Ultra? What is mind control? This has been a big psyop of a fear pandemic. It's more of a fear pandemic because it's 99.96 survival rate. So it's like less people did, when you look at the CDC numbers, even less people died this year than the previous 7 years.
Right. But people,
If I can
take off the mask and breathe, because
absolutely.
we need the oxygen.
And if I can add an example of that, Dr. Sandra, I have a friend who is connected into that PSYOPs, whatever you want to call it, world, and she realized that the whole beginning of the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, the toilet paper, the rush on toilet paper was an exercise in mind control. Right. That the people that have been part of all of this underlying dynamic were just saying, hey, let's just take this opportunity and see what happens. And so it had nothing to do with anything. Toilet paper had nothing to do with any of the symptoms.
There was no diarrhea with this flu.
No. And so that was a PSYOPs, a mind control experiment. And it worked. I mean, everybody.
Worked like a charm.
Isn't that amazing?
It's gone here again, by the way. Yeah. There's no toilet paper here again. In California.
You know, I just want to mention that just recently my brother called me, who watches mainstream news, and our Canadian mainstream news announced a very positive, wonderful miracle. They actually said there is 0 cases of the flu this month. Nobody. So there's been a cure for the flu. But then, you know, this uptick in COVID-19. It's just hilarious, right? It's hilarious.
People believe it. That's the crazy part. Like, I don't, like, what happens to their mind that they believe all of this? It doesn't make sense to me.
You know, Kelly, Jerry Seinfeld was on 60 Minutes, and, you know, they were talking to him. They're like, you know, these rags magazines, like, I think it was like, not to say any names, you know, but like the Inquirer and publications like this. And the guy was very strong. The interviewer was very strong in Jerry Seinfeld's face. And he's like, you know, how do you deal with that? You know, and what do you think about this? And he just looked at him and he said, I think that people that read them deserve to be lied to. I think that really says. In other words, you know, there's an awareness that it's completely filled with lies and untruths, and people are buying into it, though.
And they buy into it. So let's talk about the Great Awakening. What is it? And is it helping people realize the lies that we've been told all these years?
Yeah, I encourage people to be their own researchers. Awareness is power, information is power, knowledge is power. Do their own research because there's so much information out there. Although what's really scary, the real scary thing out there is the censorship of the doctors and scientists. That
Right.
you can find the information. Like we, with I am a commissioner on that International Tribunal for Natural Justice, and we did emergency hearings on COVID. And you can find those online and get the real stories, the real information with the real backgrounds, versus you've got to reclaim your own mind and critical thought. Because if you're not controlling your mind, who is?
Someone is, right?
Yeah, again, false evidence appearing real. And it was intentional to put people into fear because there's control through fear. Yeah, that's all. And it's been a pandemic. You can actually read the script on the Rockefeller Foundation website. You can actually read the script. It's called Lockstep 2010. It was actually written in 2010 or put out as a plan in 2010. Lockstep 2010. You can read the script. This is a bad D movie. And all you really have to do is wake up and realize, we are the greater community. We are the 99%. We're the silent majority, or maybe I've been a squeaky wheel a bit, but trying to get people the information and remind people they're at choice, because nobody, even the media, it doesn't do your feelings to you. Nobody makes you feel anything. So now, how do you want to feel? How do you want to respond? That's your response ability versus reacting out of something outside yourself. There are no victims, really. There's only volunteers. So what are you volunteering for?
Yeah.
Right. So if the person didn't already have those feelings inside, they couldn't get triggered by it, right? They didn't already have the anger or whatever the feeling was.
Yeah. And it's a game that I used to teach people how to play. Button, who's got the button? Everybody remember that from childhood?
Yeah.
Button, who's got the button? If you're reacting with some emotional charge, as soon as there's the least little bit of emotional charge, that's a sign to you. That's your stuff. Nobody did that stuff to you. It's your stuff. It's your button, and a chance, an opportunity to release that charge and not give somebody else your power and give them that power over you. How do you want to respond and be present with anything and everything with love, really?
Right. So the people who are in fear right now of the external circumstances, they need to look within and find out why they're feeling that way, and then look and do research, right, and gain knowledge of what's really going on in the world. Not watch the mainstream media, because obviously that's not going to lead you anywhere.
Yeah,
except more fear.
Yeah, my dad called it the boob tube. Well, yeah, it's called programming for a reason. It's been used for that. So turn off the television, do your own research, quit buying into the garbage that they're trying to put in. Unless you want to use the television as a prayer line, what there is to pray about, you can do that.
Has this year also been about purging all these negative emotions, and just to help? It's been a crazy year, and it's helping people purge themselves of all these old beliefs and feelings and emotions to go more into the light. Yeah. Would you say?
I would say. Anybody else want to talk about that?
Yeah, Maureen said. Let's let Maureen answer that.
Yes, I agree that this whole year, and I think exponentially, as we have been evolving through all this time, things are speeding up. And so the light is getting stronger, which pushes against the shadow, giving less room for the shadow to exist. Because truly we know that the shadow is just absence of light. Fear is absence of love. It's not the opposite. So as people get really wound up, with nowhere to go, they go off. And and so whatever they're ready for is what happens. But as we say, what we focus on, we create more of. And I love the physics around resonance. because we know that there's a range of frequencies that are harmonic. And so if there's too much dissonance, the cognitive dissonance that's starting to really appear, or there's too much difference, then it's the oil and water, the push away effect. So something's got to give. And so the more elevated and more coherent, higher frequencies actually entrains up. Nothing brings us down except what's, as you said, Kelly, is already within us. And so as as this gets pushed, something's got to happen, something's got to give. So it's a push-pull, and it's choice time on the planet. And so people are choosing which way to go and what works and what doesn't work. And that's really all it is. What's working for you? Is that working for you?
How's that working for you?
Yeah.
How's that working for you, honey?
Yeah. And so
it's again, the darkest before the light. It's like a cocoon.
Absolutely.
It's the darkest. They're trying to constrict and control. Last ditch attempts to try to control unlimited beings, but we're out of control.
Yeah.
The horses, the cows, everything's out of the barn already. You can't put us all back in.
Well, we're all liquefying.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we're liquefying. We're in the cosmic chrysalis, just getting ready.
Yes. And it takes some of that suppression for people to rise above it and go, wait a minute, we're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore.
There's the bow and arrow, right?
In the Great Awakening. I mean, it's like awareness. But because the shadow government has been more than exposed, the deep state, look, everybody talking blatantly about the deep state even, it's being brought into the light, that Jupiter, that Saturn. The Jupiter is the great benefic that brings that expansion. And there's a destructuring. There's got to be a destructuring before we can have the restructuring, right? And you're seeing meltdown of all kinds of structures across humanity. There's got to be a great awakening or a great reset. There's a choice which way we're going with it. And the choice is ours. There's got to be this restructuring. And it's the Saturn that brings form and structure. And we're bringing forward the new humanity, the new earth. We want to focus on what we want to create. They've been masters, the shadow government, at war and creating hell on earth, literally trying to create hell on earth when we've got this magnificent pleasure planet, a paradise planet. And it's a new heaven and it's a new earth through us. We have anything and everything to heal everything. That's what I do know from every core and fiber of my being, is we have everything to heal everything. And I love miracles, massive, miraculous. We need big ones right now. We need every healer like on steroids. That's part of what my technology is how do we create that quantum shift, that quantum leap of consciousness where, we create that new heaven, new earth through us, because it's because of us showing up and being that presence, that power. It's the 100th monkey effect. It will not be stopped. And on the example of instantaneous release, you see these biograms behind me. They're bioelectrography of the human energy field. One of the things we love to see is we've been able to, because I've done so much with veterans and things like that, and you can see the actual release of head traumas and things with our technology before and after. What allows instantaneous release, we've actually captured that, where when you have more charge to the body, the power that made the body heals the body. And when the cells have more charge, literally the physics of it, when you have more energy, first thing the body, and that includes the unconscious mind, the subconscious, wants to discharge anything that is not coherent with that light. Because as we radiate light, literally activating the light from the core of the DNA, anything and everything unlike it wants to be discharged.
Yeah.
So you can actually see that discharge, that instantaneous release of old patterns. And that's one of the things we've created and documented with the EE system, which is very exciting.
That is so
working
cool.
on stuff doesn't work.
Right. You said a minute ago, you need to destructure things before you create the new world, right? And do you think that 2020 was about like destructuring everything, or do you think we still got a ways to go before we remove all the structures, the old structures in place?
It's in process. Clearly that's in process. And I think what we have, hindsight is 2020 now, where we go into this new year. And it shift, or, you know, which way are we going? Are we going into sovereignty as a nation, as beings? Are we going to have freedom and the constitutional rights and things like that? Or are we going to have global enslavement?
Mm-hmm. And chaos itself has structure, and chaos is a necessary step in reforming new realities. And all the conflict resolution that I've studied with different people at different times say that stage of chaos is essential. That breaking down of structure, what we think or what we think we know or what we think we feel, all of it is the whole pattern interrupt, you know, needs to happen before we can then reform, you know, into alignment with our greatest truth. So, yeah.
Yeah, Scalar makes that very elegant, very, very elegant. That's one of the benefits of bioscalar technology and Scalar itself. A principle of it is superluminal velocity. Things move, you know, it's coherence, it's superluminal velocity. Things move beyond the speed of light. And so it's very fast. And one of the principles of it is this continual reorganization, a continual reorganization to higher levels of function. So high functionality is elegance. That's where that coherence is. So it really is an ideal, optimal technology for supporting that for individuals, but also for communities. Total transmutation of energy, where we go from the effects of radiation. We want to go from 5G, we want to, you know, override it with a higher power, the power of love, literally, but we're going from 5G to 5D,
Yes.
where as we radiate light as beings, we're no longer at effect of anything that is not of the light. And that is pure science.
Yes.
Right, so anything that, I'm trying to think of how to word this, like the physical won't impact you when you're in the 5D realm, right? Because you're above that. You're in the spiritual, you're in the 5D. Like what you eat.
That you're not impacted. It's like you're choosing how you respond. But anything and everything either supports you in your greatest life or not. So quit paying to poison yourself. You're going to do, you know, don't, you know, every dollar's a vote. Don't vote for the things that have poisoned the planet or poisoned yourself. Quit voting for them. Every dollar's a vote. Law of supply and, you know, that law of consumer demand is very, very powerful too. So you're voting with every dollar. So you want to support the things that heal the planet, that heal the earth, that heal yourself. You know, empowerment means making healthier, more intelligent, more informed choices for yourself. And it's like, what supports your true, best, and highest potential, purpose, or highest expression on this planet at this time.
And when you're expressing your true authentic self, when do we, I was talking to James about this, that's how we got connected in the first place, was talking about not aging and just living eternally, which is the coolest thing ever. How does that, when does that come into play? When would we be able to do that? Or why haven't we yet?
We already are.
We are bodies of light.
My body's aging.
well, you know what? I think stress and fear are the biggest factors. So again, you know, the whole theme of our conversation too is about letting go of the dissonance, letting go of what impedes. So what ages us is our negative, limiting thoughts and feelings and emotions that we have about ourselves and our lives, because that restricts the life force. And again, the more we let go, the more that life force is allowed to go through us, through every cell and radiate. But it's like what we call life, but most people call life is normal to get sick and decay and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
But that was never normal. It's common only, but it's common because most of us are living disconnected. You know, over the past couple thousand years especially, we've been living in a disconnected state from ourselves. We thought we were victims. We thought we were guilty. We thought we were sinners. We thought we were worthless. And because of that, we've even allowed some people to come into power with utility companies, you know, and Federal Reserve banking, and allowed them to control us. Because when we feel guilty and we feel lackful and we feel worthless, we don't even know the difference. But now that we're awakening and we realize, hey, this deep state way does not resonate with who I am. I'm not a guilty sinner. I am divine. I am lovable. I am worth something. And we all are. And it's like, let's create something different. Let's create a different structure completely, you know? And so I think it's empowering to realize that even everything that we're seeing now flush out in the deep state, all this stuff, we actually created it. We allowed it because we didn't know who we are from our disconnected state. You know, I mean, it's no different than a slave being hit, you know, by a whip. And if the slave feels they've done something wrong and they don't deserve any better, they're going to say, keep hitting me, master. They need that, you know, and this is what we've done because we didn't know who we were. Now the awakening, we're like taking another look. That's what I feel.
Yeah. It's exciting, thinking of things to come with the changing of the energies and get all this darkness out of the way, and we can move into the light and live happier and more peaceful lives. So I wanted to ask you guys personally your advice for people who do hit these triggers, how to handle them. I'd like to hear from each of you just a tip and what you do and what triggers you. Actually, I'm curious what triggers each of you as well, if you're willing to share. So I'll go with James. You can go first if you like.
Sure. You know, I get triggered, and I think many of us do. And I think the answer is to how long do we want to stay in that trigger? You know, I become more conscious and aware all the time. So I see something, and if I feel triggered, first thing I do is always, I don't blame the circumstance. You know, I don't blame the person that said that. I don't blame anything outside of me. I look within, what part of my vibration attracted that? And like Sandra said earlier, if I have an emotional charge on it, I can look at a lot in life and it doesn't press my buttons. I can feel love and compassion. But if I don't feel that way and I feel emotionally triggered, it's my stuff. Something in me is being reflected back. And I literally do what I said earlier. What part of me is creating that? And the first thing I do is welcome it, because to resist it is just gonna, you know, create it for a much longer time. And so I welcome it. It's like, okay, is it okay to feel this? You know, and it's like, yeah, it's like, what part of me is creating that? And then it's like, there's a part of me that still feels I don't deserve, you know? And it's like, wow, is there really another layer of that? Okay, well, what can I do? You know, and then I work on changing my vibration, and I think it's constant retraining. Anyways, that's a simple thing, but that's something that I do.
I suppose Chris.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. You spoke.
No, I was just feeling what triggers me the most is my adult daughters, and of course they're you know, under my skin literally, you know, and so what I also realized with the knowledge and understanding that I have and the studies that I've done is that as I take responsibility for anything that they are apparently, you know, doing, is my stuff. And when I clear it, then I know that it's an opportunity, because we're all connected, especially those of us that are heart and DNA connected, most closely, allows that shift to happen for them at the level that they're ready for. And so I love that opportunity, knowing that as I shift and clear my own triggers, that it shifts for everyone around me automatically and effortlessly. It just is who we are as interconnected, entangled beings. And of course, you know, with the work I developed, you know, IRT, inner resonance technologies, I'm grateful for having just a single touch and a breath that activates an entire matrix clearing for whatever that was about, whatever the trigger was. I know it's connected and interconnected into all parts of who I am. So with that understanding, I can just do a simple breath in and out of my heart center with a touch that activates that chemistry of wholeness that I've already programmed, and that frequency of greater freedom to be more of my true self than ever before.
I love that. I did what you taught me. I did that this morning when I was having a freak out with my technology.
Oh,
everything was break. It did. So I worked with Maureen all over the weekend, and we did the breathe in and breathe out and do my hands together and not, because technology drives me nuts and I go mental, and I don't want to go mental anymore. So I need to get to the bottom of that. But this totally helped. So thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, Chris and Sandra, what are your triggers? How do you handle it?
Yeah, Chris, let's
get to the bottom of all of your issues.
Well, we want to hear from a man now again. It's Chris's turn. Where'd he go?
Are you there, Chris?
It's up to me.
Yes.
Oh my God, we've been talking to you for 10 minutes.
I think I've just been in some sort of out-of-body situation.
You were interrupted by a woman, you see? Maybe that's a trigger. You were interrupted by a woman and you shut down.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
I think it's just the very fact that it was, too many women talking about triggers. I couldn't handle it. I just had to blank out as a simple man. Hey, I prefer to focus on not so much, what triggers me is what triggers me. It's as James says, it's not about not getting triggered. It's about recognizing it, letting it go, and choosing a better step forward, mentally and emotionally and literally physically. So I think that's the key, is we all get triggered, just to recognize that. We've all had a conditioned mind from childhood. And it's more of a case of, a lot of the conversation that we've had tonight about, just bringing ourselves back to the present moment, letting that go, breathing in, whichever method we use, and just sort of bringing ourselves back to the present moment. I'd like to just offer a little sort of acronym. This is something I've used for absolutely years with athletes and all sorts of different people have coached, and it's called PMA squared. I don't know whether it was the same in the States and over the pond. Maybe like in the 90s, PMA was a thing, it was positive mental attitude, and it was talked about a lot, and it was big in sport, and it sort of faded away over the years, and I used to love that little thing. But over the years, I've added an extra bit on. So the PMA squared is present moment awareness with positive mental attitude. And that's my little conscious mind mantra, my conscious mind hack. And that's what I share, in my different programs and whatnot. And it's just a nice little thing to remember, it's like a PMA squared, my present moment awareness, am I here now? And I choose a positive mental attitude, and again, I like to think you take a breath in with that when you recognize you're in the future or in the past in your mind or being triggered, just a breath in, PMA squared, present moment awareness, positive mental attitude, and away we go, so that's something that I like to share and I like to use. But yeah, I think, not a case of being overly fussed that you get triggered. Just notice it, let it go, and move on in a better space, and use it as a bit of a training.
I like that. And all negative feelings you feel are means you're in the past, right? Because nothing in the present moment is negative. It's something you're being triggered from the past.
Well, and exactly, and of course that's where our full power is, in the present moment. That's when we've really only got free will in the present moment, and that's the issue with the conditioned mind, and also the condition with the world we're in, where we're overwhelmed with information. We're so busy with so much stuff and so many things, information bombarded to us. Right. We live so much in the future and so much in the past in our conscious thoughts, and then the subconscious is driving the show. And of course, if that subconscious is old and outdated, that's where you'll end up. So of course, step one to that is being present, noticing what's going on and where you are, and choosing good decisions, good emotions, and again bringing in that sort of higher energy, whatever words you want to use for that, into your body, in the physical body, for you to move forward in balance and harmony.
Great, thank you. You're up, Sandra.
Okay. Yeah, and some of it's like I said, back to that game, button, who's got the button. If somebody's or something is pushing your button, say, gee, thanks, I needed that. I forgot where that button was. Thanks for helping me clear it, because you lost that button, you forgot where it was. Oh, now you're really aware, acute awareness sometimes of where the button is. So just so you can let it go, because you wouldn't know to let it go. You wouldn't know it was your charge. Otherwise, it's God doing this, that, or the other thing out there. You don't have any emotional charge on it. It's just observing. You're the observer of whatever God wants to do or needs to do is okay by you, right? And you send them love and hope they make better choices. Send them light, send them love, but the gratitude of finding your own buttons. And thanks for pushing that. I forgot where that one was. Oh, okay. And then I like the clearer the question, the clearer the answer. And so again, really clear questions. What's this really about? That one has literally saved my life, when I've been under, whatever attacks or anything. What's this really about? And then listen, what's this really about? So I'd like to share that one because the light exposes the darkness, everything, and so much is being exposed right now. So get excited about it. We've waited a long time for this time on the planet. Might as well get excited about it. It's a game of life. Might as well play the game and enjoy playing it. It's Toad's Wild Ride. Woohoo! We'll go, my bucket list has been, there's not a lot I haven't done in this life. I'm grateful for all of it. We're here to live our life to the max and enjoy it. And then there's another technique is one of the most powerful things I share, besides taking a deep breath, aloha, sometimes it's a low freaking ha, right? I have other people use different terms there. Letting go, I recommend colonics for letting go of old shifts that's gotten stuck, for example. But one of my most single powerful tricks that I teach somebody is a salt bath, 2 cups of salt. This is old science. 2 cups of salt, a pound of salt in the bathtub. The skin is our largest organ of elimination. Nothing does what a bath does. It's our 3rd kidneys. It's our way of processing the negativity. The water helps heal. So you get in a hot salt bath, put your oils or ginger or whatever herbs. We actually hypercharged EE salt. This is when Fukushima happened. We decided we got to get the radiation out of people's bodies fast. So we have a hypercharged salt for that. But 2 cups of salt is the simple thing in the bathtub. The simple bath for radiation is 2 cups of salt because we're at an extinction level event with the radiation. So 2 cups of salt, 2 cups of baking soda. Do a nice hot bath that open up the capillaries, open up the pores, breathe. Let everything dissolve into the water. It takes breath for energy to move. So breathe. The salt will pull things like a magnet. It's magic. This is old, very old science. Nothing does what that bath does. And it'll pull the acidification of the old emotions. It'll pull the heavy metals. It'll allow your body to, give your body the energy, the charge to be able to discharge. And then let everything go down the drain. Send yourself to bath heaven, breathe, light a candle, drink some green tea. Hot green tea is one of the best things you can do with COVID too, by the way. Hot green tea, it's a zinc ionophore, it's very antiviral, etc. So I recommend hot green tea about 3 times a day. And then breathe. Then let everything go down the drain and say aloha.
I like that because people need the tips of things to do whenever they get stressed. Taking a bath, I think is amazing. That's awesome. I love that. And every time I get triggered, I definitely take deep breaths and recenter myself. But now I have this new technique. Thank you, Maureen. And if you guys have any other tips, I'd like to hear it. But I really want to make sure everyone is not living in fear anymore. And after especially listening to this video, given tips on how to handle it and realizing we do create our own reality, and no matter what's happening externally with the election or COVID, whatever it is, it does not impact it does not have to impact our happiness, because we do create our own reality. And I think having tips, like, do you guys have any daily tips, like what you wake up, what you first do in the morning? Before we end this interview, I just want to get some quick tips from each of you on what people could do to start off their day right. Any habits you guys do?
Gratitude.
Yeah, and I think the first thing, as soon as you realize you're awake, you know, and the consciousness is kind of looking to like for your identity, right in that time, if you can, instead of checking your phone and instead of doing all this stuff, if you can spend at least a few minutes, you know, going into the state of being of where you really want to go, who do you really want to be, what are the qualities you want to exude, you know, and spend a few moments vibrating that. And especially during those early hours, that's a real easy, fast way to begin reconditioning yourself. Because what most people do is they go into a trigger as soon as they're awake. You know, there's that moment, and then if that moment passes, it's like, oh yeah, I'm this body and I have these problems and I have these pains. Let me check my phone. Oh my God, the world's terrible, you know, and then you're a robot again. But if you take that tone. Yeah, if you take that in the morning, and it gets easier and easier. At first, it's like, whoa, but it gets easier, and then you just go into that every day, and that's such a powerful way to start your day.
Sandra or Chris, do you guys have any habits that you recommend?
Yeah,
like how you wake up in the morning.
I generally, before I start my sort of work, whether I'm doing sort of, you know, cognitive stuff or clinic stuff, I generally just do my simple technique, which is called the gamma mindset technique. And it takes sort of, you know, 2 minutes really, and it synchronizes my hemispheres, switches on some sort of gamma brain activity, which gets me really in the zone really, really quickly, gets that heart brain coherence, and I'm good to go. You know, the only challenge is I often like staying in there rather than coming out and getting on with what I'm doing. But that's a practice that I do that's simple and easy and just gets me there every time. So that's my sort of little morning preset before I actually start some sort of work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sandra.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I spent decades researching right-left brain synchronization and things like that, which are your ideal optimal brain states. And I love his work with the gamma brain states. That's so important, so powerful. I understand it. And our technology is another thing that supports people. What the actual research is, they found that people could go to a deeper meditational state than a Tibetan monk in 7 minutes. Which is really quite extraordinary. It just supports that idea, the ideal optimal brain states. And so I like sleeping in my EE system. Having around the bed is the best because your body's perfectly supported. You asked about physical immortality. The actual research is they found that our technology, the effects on the DNA was that it was repairing all the breaks and damage in the DNA and lengthening telomeres. So that's true age reversal. And that's in spite of me, you know, literally got more than 4 million air miles because I'm here to heal the world. And I've been literally all over it. And I've had every variety of mileage on my body besides having 4 kids. And I know those triggers. But I've also found that my thing for, you know, since I was young even was that morning, rather than being woken up by an alarm, morning is sacred space. I allow my higher self to wake me up at the perfect time, you know, and trust that, you know, rather than being alarmed out, but realize that your higher self, your subconscious, unconscious mind, your superconscious have been working on stuff to present to you first time in the morning. So that's the easiest time to communicate and get the messages from your higher self. So I find that that's the most powerful thing, is to stop and meditate and listen in, you know, before I get out of bed, and I take that deep breath and go forth. So,
yes,
right.
I marinate in that, you know, in that awareness of that's so, as you say, so available first thing in the morning. And as I said earlier, gratitude is such a powerful chemistry and frequency that attracts more of what we do want, more of who we are. And of course, I remember to do my own, like walk my own talk, do the techniques that I know and love, and the IRT touch breath, is a single matrix clearer that starts my day with a super duper defrag antiviral program for my entire reality. And then, with the gratitude and the listening, but I start by listening. I wake up and I'm just present and aware. And it's such a precious, sacred time, as you say. And I think if people just did that, they just wake up and they're just aware and listening and allowing. I think allowing is a powerful principle, and the messages and listen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just taking that breath at the beginning of the day.
And being out in nature is huge too, right? Just love it. I'm lucky I'm in California, so it's nice year round. Probably not as nice in the UK right now. Right, Chris?
Yeah, it's a little bit fresh. It's dark and wet, cold. But I'm buried in a valley, so it's also beautiful. But yeah, this time of year is it's time to hibernate a bit.
Oh, nice. Well, I really appreciate all of you guys for coming on and sharing your wisdom. And anyone who's watching this video who knows people who are in fear, or if you're in fear yourself, I do hope you share the video around, because no one should be going around being triggered constantly by external events. That's no way to live your life, right? Have some awareness, do some research, and go within and find your inner peace and happiness. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Kelly. Great to see you.
Have a lovely winter solstice.
Oh, Kelly, you asked earlier.
Oh, that's right.
About you, and so I wrote it down. I found the information. The program that I'm working with for the next 3 days out of LA is called Rock Our World. rockourworld.com meditation_event /meditation_event, but you could probably find it rockourworld.com. So yeah, let's rock and roll. We waited a long time for this planet. Let's do this.
Yeah, and that's where you're giving the speech tonight in LA, right?
Yeah, 8 o'clock tonight. I'll be on stage there live, and tomorrow on the next day sharing the secrets of instantaneous release. There's actually a kahuna chant for instantaneous release. I'll be sharing some of the secrets of instantaneous release. Love is acceptance, allowance, and appreciation. That he who is grateful in all things shall be made glorious. So that's a big piece of that gratitude for all that's gone on. Glad we're here, just really glad we're here. And really thank you for each and every one of you for being and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your presence with the world. And thank you for making putting this all in place, James and Kelly. And just wanted to share that. Let's rock our world.
I'm on it. I'll be there.
I want to, before we go, can you tell us each where people can find you if they want to work with you? Sandra.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, EE Energy Enhancement, eesystem.com is our technology and the website. And James was showing you our EE medallion, which helps keep the blood and the DNA in coherence and in integrity so that you stay strong. This is very high tech in the low tech model, very low tech model. And some of our biggest work is working with the veterans. We have planned for 1,100 wellness centers for the veterans, but also advanced radiation and water remediation from Fukushima, et cetera. So I'm working with former heads of NASA, chief engineer of NASA, et cetera. But this is high tech in the low tech, very portable, very affordable model. The EE medallions and the EE bracelets, because you want to stay strong no matter what you're exposed to. Stay in your integrity, your strength, your power, your light, and your love.
And that's on your website, everything that you just showed us.
Yeah, EE System. I do a lot on Facebook. I post a lot of research and stuff on Facebook. YouTube, there, you put in Dr. Sandra Rose Michael or EE System. There's tons there, more than on the website even. But there's a research page, peer-reviewed published studies, etc.
Okay, great. Maureen, where can people find you?
MaureenEdwardson.com. It's very simple. My name.com. And they'll also find my book there that they can download, Your Magical Evolutionary Code Unleashed, The Science of Inner Resonance. And this is what it looks like. Just out of reach. Hang on. My morning exercise. So there is the book. And yeah, and you can download that very simply. And I think it's a very easy, simple read that gives you the whole system. And I always do a whole complimentary session for anyone that shows up. So that's an invitation for anyone and everyone just to send me a message on my contact form, and we'll set up a time.
Great, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, it's nice and easy. Gamma, Gamma, GammaMindset.com. And you can find a whole host of free stuff there. There's a masterclass that you can watch for free, where you'll see me testing the client's subconscious mind and finding a block and then guiding her into the gamma mindset. So you can see that actually happen, and you can see the brain waves in real time. And then you see me test again after she's been in the gamma mindset. So you can see a belief change, a subconscious belief change in real time. So that's quite exciting. That's quite a fascinating little test there. And so that's in a masterclass you can see for free. So there's lots of funky stuff on that site there, GammaMindset.com.
And are most of your clients do you do a Zoom call, or how do you work with them?
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? It's changed certainly it's changed a lot this year, but it's been changing that. I mean, I have a practice. I've had a practice for 25 years, which has changed and evolved over the years, as you do. So I still have a practice. I've always done that, where people come to me. But you know, the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years, so much more of that has been online work. You know, you can do a lot of work online. You don't physically need to test somebody. You know, you can do all that sort of stuff if needed, but the most important thing is you can get the change. You know, people can get the change, the clearing of the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, the insecurities and all that sort of stuff, and those limiting beliefs. They can be rapidly reprogrammed, and you don't need to be physically with me for that. You know, you can do that easily.
They don't need to fly to the UK in the dark, dreary weather.
You're most welcome, and many people do, but it's nice here. It's small, so there's a lot to see in a short space of time.
All right, awesome. James, where can people find you?
Well, grandselfmovie.com, and we also have a companion course, a course to the movie, that really is a step-by-step that helps you let go and allow more of who you really are.
Awesome. And you have the other movie?
Yeah,
What If?
First movie, which is whatifthemovie.tv.
Okay, gross. And people can buy or rent the movie there?
Correct, yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day and Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, you too, Kelly. Thanks for having us again.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
you.
Kelly.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, bye.
Hello.
It's been a
Hello.
pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye, everyone.
And I have
Bye.
Mele Kilikimaka.
Ah, yes.
Kilikimaka. I just love to say that. But that's Merry Christmas in Hawaiian. And may you live your Christed beingness and with the greatest brilliance, please.
Oh, I love it. Okay, bye guys.
Nice. Okay, bye.
Waiting.